the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everybody and welcome to round 2 of the 2020 Karts to Computers iRacing series. We come to you live from the Laguna Seca, I'll say the full name for you. The WeatherTech Raceway Mazda somewhere in there at Laguna Seca, full title. We're here for round 2, our first road course of the season after last week's race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indy 300. We do have a lot to get through in today's kind of pre-race show, so I'm just going to kind of cycle through that pretty quickly. We're going to throw to a recap of last race for those of you that happen to miss it, and then we're gonna head into a quick lap of the track to show you guys kind of just a quick tour around from a cockpit view from Matt Clark, one of our drivers tonight. Because unfortunately we do not have a warm-up lap. It is standing starts for tonight's race, and I'll go over the race information momentarily. But first, we'll just do a quick recap of last week's race. So last week we were at the lovely, as I mentioned, Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indy 300. Now the race started off with Logan Pax on pole, our winner from our practice race we'd done the week before. Now Logan was running pretty consistently at the beginning of our race, as you'll see if there we go once it flashes. But I believe lap 20, Arnel Tabang got caught in the wall there with Logan Pax, just trying to run cleanly at the front, and a crash between multiple drivers with a huge flip from Tabang, but the Paxa was put out of the race early, so our pole sitter left and gave the lead to West. Now Mr. Ricard and Esposito there from our, I believe, lap 50 got together, and two of the definitely the main contenders from that day. I know Ricard came back and had a good race, but yeah, just an early crash left Esposito doing some flips there on the backstretch. Then we had Ricard again involved in an incident, this time I believe with I believe it was Renee Hart that he got together with. So Ricard was out of the race but came back. We had quick repairs on that day, which is why drivers that crashed out were able to come back. Now this one had some big implications, but Gallagher and Hart getting together, Josh Gallagher and Renee Hart. Gallagher just kind of turning Hart there when they had a small incident, I believe on the lap 90. It was pretty late in the race. Now Michael Trobach, another one of our big contenders, one of our more experienced drivers, got in an incident there. I believe once again that might have been Samuel McEachern instead of Todd Ricard that time. Very similar cars, but Trobach a big contender, but an even bigger contender. Paxa came all the way back through the field after his early incident. Came from 2 laps down to lead the race with McEachern right behind him, but as you see here on lap 113, Pax came into the pits, and a few laps later McEachern joined him, which meant that when the checkered flag flew, it was Josh Gallagher getting his first win of the season. A bit of a fuel mileage strategy that paid off with Paxa right in behind in the background, and those of you that watched that broadcast will remember Josh's pretty epic celebration there that I enjoyed quite a bit myself. Josh Gallagher was our first race winner of the season. I will mention, I believe we have the points graphic up there, but we will in a second. But Josh Gallagher may have won the race, but Logan Paxa got every bonus point available to him, and is actually your championship points leader heading into today's race. So as we come in today, unfortunately I don't have the championship standings graphic, but I'll try to pull it up here as I show you our next segment. So we're going to have a brief lap of the track. This is on board with Matt Clark, one of our drivers tonight, as I mentioned. Now Laguna Seca, you're going to be running about a minute and 40-second laps here, so much longer than our Indy laps if you're used to last week's race. It's going to be 45 laps tonight, so less laps, but longer ones. Let me just pull up our quick track lap with Matt Clark from practice today. Oh, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I was trying to get the championship graphic up there, which unfortunately caused this to reset. But instead of that, how about I head around the track with you guys and give you a quick rundown of what you're going to be seeing. So as you've seen, Clark just took our first and second corners up the hill there. Two very difficult corners, especially at the beginning of this race. This being another very difficult corner he comes around, as a lot of guys tend to run wide and get in the dirt there, which can be pretty catastrophic, unfortunately, in terms of penalty points when done wrong. Now you see him gearing up to one of the faster sections of the track, this quick straightaway right before the uphill climb that you're going to see him taking here. So one of our longer sweeper corners that he comes around here. Now he's going to start up the hill, and kind of a blind hill there. Unfortunately, any incidents that happen up there are going to be pretty hard to see until the last second, but he comes around this one kink corner in the middle of the hill. This big long sweeping straightaway that happens up here, but the most iconic corner of the track, I'm sure any of you that know Laguna Seca are very familiar with this, but the corkscrew, the famous vertical drop that happens all of a sudden once you reach the top of this hill, and Mac took it pretty beautifully there. But yeah, definitely a very interesting corner when it comes to entry line, and then you got this long sweeper to exit it, which is just a lot more difficult than he made it look. If guys take that too far to the inside, they get in that dirt patch you may have seen, and well, the race might be kind of doomed from there. But Clark comes around that final straightaway into the corner here, a very quick braking point, which he almost slid there in practice, which says all you need to know about how dangerous it might be in the race. But yeah, so Clark will come down the final straightaway as you saw before, and that is a lap of Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, about 1 minute and 40 second laps there. So yeah, so as we head back to our virtual Laguna Seca here to get started for today's race, round 2 of the iRacing Karts Computers iRacing series. I will do a quick rundown of the points later for those of you wondering, but just to let you know, Logan Paxa is currently our championship points leader. Now, I was unfortunately unable to display the race infographic last race, but I have it today. Look at me stepping up my my producer game here. So, as you can see, round 2 of the Karts Computers iRacing series is at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. About I should say it's about 2.2 miles in length, but for us Canadians here that maybe couldn't read the graphic I saw a minute ago, it is 3.57 kilometers. So actually a much longer track than Indy last week, but this time it'll be much slower laps than Indy because, of course, they are slower paced corners, and we are in the Mazda MX-5. Only fitting, seeing as it is a Mazda track running in a Mazda car. But Indy cars unfortunately can't run here, so we were going to our backup, one of our favorite road cars, really, of anybody that runs in iRacing. As you can see, our next race on the schedule is Skip Barber at Charlotte Roval, but I will talk plenty about that later once tonight's race is done. Very interesting track shape as well, compared to a lot of different road courses. Doesn't look all that complex, but with the elevation changes, it can be pretty killer for a lot of drivers. So as we head out of that, let's see if we can get our point standings up here for qualifying. Let's see if we can throw that up there for you. There we go. Try to get all of that out of the way. So our track map will be up, but it looks like only fitting that the driver we did the practice lap with, Matt Clark, is going to be, as far as I can tell, your pole sitter. So the one thing that may be very evident to any of you who watched last week's race is looking at our point standings right now, or not our point standings, our qualifying standings. With our timing and scoring, Matt Clark way ahead of the pack as opposed to last week where everybody seemed pretty bunched up in about a 4/10 window of our pole sitter, that week being Logan Paxa. But yeah, Matt Clark's got almost a 5/10 lead on Logan Paxa in second place, and then Felice Esposito and Ellis, as well as Michael Trobach, all in that 1.3 tenths behind area. So yeah, it's a little bit more diverse than we're used to in terms of qualifying laps, but definitely a more difficult track. So for sure, anybody who runs here is either going to be keeping up with the leaders, or they're going to, well, hopefully not, but they might have an unfortunate race if they're not used to this specific car or track, or really just the pretty difficult conditions we're going to be dealing with today. So it currently shows up as being on board with me, but yeah, I'm not in tonight's race, unfortunately. I still have yet to register for the session as not a part of it, unfortunately. I will figure that out, and my name will stop being on the graphics. But everybody on that list other than myself should be in today. I don't believe we have any technical difficulties like last week, so let's get a quick camera angle. Well, that's not a great one on your pole sitter, Matt Clark. There he is in that black and white Red Bull car. So let's just go through your pre-race results. Guys are already starting to rev up, but it is standing start, so I will do my very best not to miss out on the start of this race, but I just need to find my qualifying results graphic. There we are quickly. I'll try to go through this really quick for you. There we go. So Matt Clark, Logan Paxa, your front row there. Clark, your pole sitter for the first time this season. Felice Esposito in the second row, Ellis Trobach in the third row, Lewick and West in the fourth row, McEachern and Gallagher in the fifth, Tabang with Marshall Crocker, my father, on the outside in the sixth row, Renee Hart and Logan Ferguson, a newcomer to the series, in Ferguson in the seventh row. Then we got Todd Ricard, not myself, and Rich Foligno should be starting today's race. Let's hope that is the case. So we will wait for our our red lights in this case to go red, and we're just going to wait here. And the driver's very excited to start this race, getting the revs up. Just going to use that to be able to tell when we go green, but unfortunately it looks like everybody's revving them up just for kicks. So let's get your session state up there as we're getting ready to start this race. I believe the light countdown will start at exactly 2 minutes if all the drivers are not in the session, which looks like unfortunately they are not. So the one thing I do hope to change is, you notice the desktop audio is muted right now on my laptop, which means that unfortunately you can't hear all the revving. There we go, we have it fixed. But no, last week it was a little too loud, so that's the one thing I'll try to fix for today. But we are getting ready to go green here as, yeah, the lights are off, but they are about to be on to start today's race. Matt Clark will lead the field, and here we go, getting ready to go green, and they are off. The drivers put it in first gear. Logan Paxa with a huge start to the outside. Paxa has already gone straight around Matt Clark, and wow, what a start for sure for him. He just flew away from him there, and well, my goodness, that was quite the jump for Paxa. We don't see too many incidents back. Never mind. Car just got sent around. I got to tell who that is. We may already have a caution happening right now, but let's try to look back in the field and see who's dropping that quickly. Maybe Jordan West gets involved. He has massive damage to his front, and who else is that there? Is that... I'm trying to tell who that car is. Logan Ferguson also involved. John Guerra seems to be involved as well. So several drivers in that incident. We see more. I believe is that Freddie Esposito, and who else is back there? I'm trying to scramble to tell who's involved in those incidents, but my goodness, some chaos off the start. Our first road course of the season, and it's having massive consequences for drivers. Freddie Esposito, yeah, in the Ferrari car there with some massive damage. Michael Trobach, unfortunately, it looks like he's already gotten an incident himself. Doesn't look like he has too much damage, so you may not need to use one of those quick repairs all the drivers have. But I should let you know as we see Logan Pax heading through the corkscrew for the first time with Matt Clark falling right in behind him. I should let all of you know, similar to last week, we are allowing quick repairs for our drivers, essentially meaning they can get a free reset of their car if they take too much damage throughout the course of the race. Which, unfortunately, I think may be the case for some drivers today. We've already seen Freddie Esposito in a crash in that first lap, and definitely some chaos going down for a lot of guys. So as we throw our all of our main graphics up there, you see the track map on the side, and we're following along with Logan Paxa, your current race leader, and your almost your race winner from the previous round, but your points leader nonetheless. As you see Paxa coming through, and he's going to lead the first lap. Him and Clark already seeming to pull away a little bit from the guys behind him as we're going to head back in the field. Take a look at Justin Lewick, who is up to third. He started the race seventh, so that first lap chaos may have paid off for Mr. Justin there, as unfortunately running, I believe, the exact same livery as Matt Clark. That may get a little confusing for me, but Samuel McEachern, who finished third in our race last week. I did find out I was pronouncing his last name wrong, so that's why you'll be hearing it a little bit different tonight. But yeah, McEachern's in fourth as we speak, and sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Arnell Tabang running in fifth. Already moved up from 11th. He's got quite kind of the neon paint scheme going there. I'm a fan. Moving back, Rich Foligno, your biggest mover, absolutely. He was unable to start qualifying, so driving the Tinder car there. Pretty classy looking paint scheme. He sits in sixth, coming up from 17th in that first lap, so he was a quick mover last week and just ran a very consistent race at Indy, and well, he seems to be doing the same tonight at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. So moving back a little bit, Brian Ellis currently running in seventh, and Todd Ricard in eighth. I'm trying to tell who he is. So yeah, he's got a few guys coming in there behind him. That's Josh Gallagher and Marco Felice. Now, Marco started all the way up in third, so an incident involving earlier. Oh, I believe that's we just talked about a minute ago there. I think that was Rich Foligno in that that pink Tinder livery there. That well, he just seemed to subject himself to that very difficult uphill turn that we see, the little kink in the straightaway there. But it's a brutal corner, one of several on this track, and yeah, right as I was going through the field, he got a bit of an incident there. Well, maybe I have to go back and check that. Unfortunately, with my replay technology, I don't really want to do too many, especially if we have too many incidents today. But I have lost control. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that's way too far back. Let's try to speed through this. It's going to be a little bit too slow. Let's add live for now, and maybe in a little bit we'll do a quick recap of the crashes. We'll go collect a few incidents and see if we can get some replays on them. So, Logan Paxa, still your race leader, started second. Now he was runner-up last week, and I know speaking to him, he really wishes he could have done better for himself. I mean, he's the points leader, so he definitely didn't come out of the race with too much to be sad about. But yeah, he would have liked the win last week, and this week he's absolutely going to go maybe be a little bit more aggressive. But really, how aggressive can he be at a track like Laguna Seca and risk taking too many penalty points and getting thrown out, which is something I should mention quickly. So the main difference between this track and last week, the Indianapolis being a very, not a difficult track, but certainly not comparable to such a difficult road course as Laguna Seca. But one thing I do want to mention to everybody is that the drivers will be getting penalty points for small off-track infractions today. So we'll follow along with Paxa and see if he kind of dips his tire off track or anything. But it is actually quite finicky about how it goes about giving up penalty points to drivers. So the one thing I should mention is drivers that receive 17 will be getting a penalty at the end of today's race. Nobody will be getting disqualified. That is turned off. But yeah, so penalties will start going to guys who get 17 off-track incidents or more. And it could be different incidents. I shouldn't just say off-track. Collisions are worth more penalty points than usual. And we saw that a little bit last week. Some guys came very close to disqualifications. But today I don't think you're going to be seeing too many car-to-car collisions. Even as we look at the track map there, not too many guys running close to each other, or certainly not close enough to inspire a collision to happen. So Logan Paxa remains your race leader, and I think if he's able to keep this consistent pace he's got up ahead of Matt Clark, well, he may have a pretty comfortable start to this race. But with pit strategy and everything, as we saw last week, there you go, he kind of dips his tire off there, and that's what I talk about when I mentioned the penalty points. That corner is definitely not a great one for off-track incidents, but yeah, this race, as you even see from all the timing tower updates, it's not going to perhaps be very close in terms of race pace at times. I mean, some guys just inherently figure out the track better than others, but it'll kind of be a war of attrition, because I know some of the faster guys do tend to have more of those off-track incidents, and if they do get too many penalties, well, it could be just what they need to to put the race in jeopardy. And yeah, we see another one. Oh, actually back there in the field, Matt Clark, your pole sitter, get involved in a huge crash coming up the kink, the exact same Rich Foligno get involved with earlier when he had his incident. We'll do a quick replay on that just to see what happened to him. But yeah, it's odd. I haven't seen him have too many incidents, whether it be practice or qualifying today. And yeah, it looks like he just got too far down that rumble strip, and when he got a tire in the dirt and he tried to hook it left to make that second half of the uphill straightaway, well, just kind of flicked the car around and didn't seem to take damage. He managed to avoid the wall, so if he's able to keep it clean the rest of the lap, hopefully his tires aren't too dirty, and well, he'll be able to finish this race as usual. So Logan Paxa is still your race leader, but now he doesn't have Matt Clark to worry about directly behind him. Second place does become Justin Lewick, the other Red Bull Monster Energy livery, who I know has been fairly quick all week, whether it be with our test session yesterday or our practice earlier today. And then Samuel McEachern behind him, the kind of the world's most consistent man here. He started 9th in today's race, and he's already up to 3rd. So finished 3rd last week in a race that, well, he felt surprised he was able to compete well in, seeing as he wasn't a very experienced oval racer and certainly not at Indy in the Dallara IR18. So yeah, McEachern just kind of seems to be the face of the series when it comes to consistency. And well, he's actually running very consistent lap times. He's kind of got Justin Lewick as a guide point, at least for braking points and stuff like that. You will notice the guiding line for the cars on the track is on. I felt like it would be good to leave it on just so some of you had a kind of a good guide marker for where and when the guys will be braking and speeding up and coasting. Just a quick disclaimer for those of you that don't understand the line. The green basically means the driver should... Oh, whoops. I was hoping I wouldn't have any of those, but sometimes the window decides to close on me. But any of that green line there will mean that they are on the gas the entire way through that line, or at least they should be if they're following it. The white there, you see it as we come through that long sweeping corner after the corkscrew, is the lift indicator. So basically, the drivers are neither, or at least, again, they wouldn't be if they were trying to use it. They wouldn't be on the gas or the brake. They're just kind of in a continuous state of coasting. And then after that, the red, as you can probably guess, is the brake indicator. So that's probably the most important one to most people. And, well, braking points at a track that isn't an oval, definitely more important than a race that is. And well, we're already going to see some guys getting in incidents as we did earlier with both Rich Foligno and Matt Clark getting caught in the kink there coming up the long uphill sweeping straightaway. And yeah, you can wonder if maybe it was their breaking point that threw him off and just sent him in too deep. And well, when they came out of the corner and hit the apex on exit, well, they got a tire in that dirt and it sent him around. So yeah, just a very tough track for sure compared to Indy. And well, as we head back up to our race leader, Logan Paxa, who I believe as I cut to him will now have a 10-second lead on the rest of the field. Well, you know, Mr. Paxa is running very quick in front of the rest of the field for tonight's race. So I know Logan, I talked to him all week after last week's race, and he was saying he's feeling pretty confident about his speed at Laguna. I know he, in his own personal time, has run a lot of MX-5 himself, so definitely that experience at the track and the car combination itself may be coming in handy. But one thing I was wanting to watch out for Logan is sometimes he runs this very aggressive line that, well, nobody else in the field can really replicate all that easily. But the only downside to that being, well, if you come off the track slowly too many times, and he didn't there, but yeah, if you happen to dip a tire off track quickly, well, you could gain a penalty point that eventually could put you out of the race entirely. So as he comes up on Marshall Crocker, the lap car there, let's just check out through the field again, because Mr. Paxa seems to be, well, having some smooth sailing times over there. Looks like Crocker's going to let him by. It's some good sportsmanship from a lap down driver. Justin Lewick with McEachern still right in there behind him. So an interesting dynamic. I know McEachern way more experienced when it comes to road courses than he is ovals. So should have a better race pace today than he thought he would have last week. But yeah, Justin Lewick as well, as I know, ran on his own really quick for last week's race at Indy. He just unfortunately had a great finish when he got involved in too many incidents. So Lewick's got something to prove and definite room to grow in the point standings, which I promise I will go over later. Matt Clark, your race pole sitter originally, well, he's got involved in an incident coming up there in that kink corner up the hill, as was the same with Rich Foligno earlier. So then we move back to 5th, Brian Ellis there, and not the all-black car he wore last week. I believe it's, trying to see if there's a sponsor there. No, it seems to be a pretty classic MX-5 livery. He's running 5th, started 5th, still there. And again, this is the kind of consistency that may lead somebody to win the race if we see too many incidents happen up ahead. And Marco Felice started 3rd. I know he's been running very quick laps all week. One of our 3 drivers after today's warm-up that were able to run 1 minute 40-second times. The other 2 being Logan Paxa. And I believe Matt Clark ran a 140.9 at some point in today's warm-up. So those 3, at least in terms of absolute maximum race pace they can run, well, those 3 seem to be the head of the class. But yeah, Marco Felice, I don't think he had an incredible points result last week, not due to any fault of his own, just got involved in a few too many incidents and was kind of put out of the race early. But yeah, Felice running, as you can see there, the Super Mario car. I know I've neglected to mention it thus far, but Logan Paxa does have a Luigi car. The 2 seem to be got something going, and I know I checked the chat right at the start of today's broadcast, but definitely some Go Luigi fans there, so maybe some guys cheering for that Mario Brothers tandem there. But as we move back in the field, Todd Ricard, that again, a classic Mazda MX-5 style livery there, but running consistent laps up in 7th. He's actually moved up 8 spots up from 15th earlier in the race. And well, as we saw with a few guys last week, well, sometimes that's all you really need to do if you want to have consistent laps here. You gotta just try to make easy passes when you can. And with so many people crashing out earlier, well, it's paid off in spades there for Mr. Ricard. So behind him, Josh Gallagher in that. Is that? I can't tell what sponsors these are, ladies and gentlemen. My monitor appears to be zoomed out a little bit too far, but definitely an intriguing livery there for him. So Josh Gallagher, last week's race winner. I know he was a little bit less confident coming into today than, well, I think he was last week, or at least from my understanding. So hopefully Josh will have the race pace necessary for him to make a move through the field today if he wants to try to maintain his second place spot in the championship standings. But he is a defending race winner in the series, so he's definitely got something to prove here as well. But Logan Ferguson, a newcomer, he just joined the series in the last few days, but fellow Ontario karting driver to a few of the guys in the field. A few guys knew him, and from what I can understand, he seems like a pretty passionate guy about the series. Definitely was getting some laps in today and seemed passionate about joining and making an impact in his first race in the series. So moving up 5 spots from 14th, running decently consistent laps so far. Well, you know, the guy, oh, right as I say that, he seems to drift out a little bit in the corkscrew. But again, really, if you don't come off the track and get involved in an incident or a crash, well, it's not a huge deal, really, because, well, there's going to be crashes in front of you. It's a 45-lap race. Another thing that I perhaps neglected to mention in our pre-race show, but we are on lap 9 of 45, and it will be a little bit shorter of a broadcast than last week's race, just because Indy 300, you know, it was meant to be our season opening longer than usual race of the season. But yeah, if Ferguson's able to keep some pretty consistent laps going, well, you know, I'm able to pick up a few spots in front of him, and even if he doesn't have the maximum race pace some others have, well, he could have a very good race all day. So as we head back up to our leader, Logan Pax, who we mentioned in that Luigi livery, well, if you look at the track map, that's really all you need to know. That white number 1 with the green circle outlining it, that is Mr. Pax himself as he comes through the corkscrew. Great camera angle there. You see the drop down the hill and just how much elevation is there. If any of you ever get a chance to go in person, it is surprisingly big drop that you see there. But yeah, and then back in the field, kind of our main battle, at least for a position pretty up high through the field, Justin Lewick with Sam McEachern, sorry about that, right behind him. So we go to our rear chase cam, and we may see a pass coming up here momentarily, because McEachern running right in his draft. Doesn't look like he's trying to pull out a line to make a move yet, but definitely McEachern is trying to think of every plan he can to maybe set up a move long term here on Lewick. And Lewick messed up his braking point a little bit, but McEachern had to brake check himself not to hit him. Lewick still seems to have a bit of a gap going there, because yeah, he did. Oh, wow, okay. Sorry, I was trying to figure that out there, but does seem to have enough of a gap that at least momentarily he should be okay in terms of having to defend too hard. But McEachern with a pretty good corner, actually a great corner, nailed the line there. And so Sam McEachern, the guy that said he was definitely more of a road course specialist than an oval one, well, he's making a pretty good case for that to be the truth. As well, we see both guys drive off into the runoff there, and it should let me know if anybody gets any penalties. But as far as I know, nobody's acquired any yet. But yeah, that's just how subtle those off-track penalties can be, and I'm pretty sure those guys both would have taken a penalty point for even just a small mistake such as that. So quite too many of those in a race, and well, they're going to be getting a time penalty for to be counted after today's race rather than during. So we don't have any drive-through penalties or anything like that. It'll just be just bonus time added onto their time at the end of the race. So definitely something to keep in mind for all of our drivers in today's race is, well, even if you're not ahead of everybody necessarily on track, well, if they get in too many incidents, you may be further up than you think you are. So we see McEachern still trying to chase him down. He came pretty close to the corkscrew, but it can be deceptive. Some of these corners, well, just because you come into it pretty quick and you have a good entry doesn't mean your exit will be all that great. Certainly not in some certain corners in the section of the track these two are in. But we'll switch our camera back quickly here as we see, maybe we'll head back a little bit. Matt Clark, our pole sitter, who's, well, he's shown that speed he showed in qualifying again, because he is quickly catching these two gentlemen in front of him. We could see a very good battle here for that second place position between Lewick, McEachern, and Clark. So as we go forward, we see Marshall Crocker run through the runoff there a little bit. Hopefully doesn't spin. Manages to save it. Nice save there as he comes out of our final corner onto the front stretch. Check back here. A few drivers actually coming out of the pits. I wonder if that's, I don't think that would be for fuel purposes. Must just be either an incident or something of that type. But yeah, that's our Nell to Bang. The two drivers ahead of him are Lewick and McEachern battling for second. But actually, that's interesting because that should split up the guy sitting in fourth there. I believe that's, yeah, it's Matt Clark, our former pole sitter. But I did just get a pop-up saying that Todd Ricard actually was involved in an incident a minute ago. So let's see if that is indeed the case. Is, well, kind of an odd entry to this corner, but I don't see anything there. So maybe it just came a little bit wide in a corner earlier. Now, one thing I do want to mention is we see that's Josh Gallagher coming right up behind him, trying to make a pass for the 7th position. Maybe we'll throw up the battle box here just to give you kind of an idea of, well, what these gentlemen are dealing with on track. It's Marco Felice, the other driver on the battle box there, going a large ways in front, but even bigger gap behind is, yeah, Gallagher trying to catch Ricard, who just made a mistake there. And well, this could be what Josh Gallagher needs to get a very valuable piece of track position, or at least a point in the standings. Actually 2 points if he's sitting in the position he's currently at. As remember, any position in the top 10 will have a 2-point gap between each respective position point total. So say if you were in 4th, you would have 20 points, and you would have 18 in 5th. So the 2 extra points. Actually, we see 2 guys having to go around. I'm trying to tell who that is, but a lap car kind of got in the way, and he may split up this battle. As Gallagher's going to have to navigate his way around him. I'll try to tell who that is based on, I believe that's Jean Guerra as our battle box is showing. But yeah, so Jean, if we check the timing tower, kind of an unfortunate day for him so far. Rene Hard, I know, is completely out of the race, as well as Rich Foligno in the Tinder Car Familiar. Unfortunately, those two are the only drivers out of the race so far entirely, at least whether it's based on, well, it wouldn't be penalty points, and it wouldn't be car damage, I wouldn't think, this early. So maybe guys just getting fed up with the difficulty of this track. But a few guys I can already see. I'm going to throw it up on the graphic here. If we look at the gain for some of these guys from the start of the race, Pax up 1 position, started in 2nd on the front row, and very quickly took the lead from Matt Clark, your former pole sitter. Justin Lewick up from 7th position all the way up to 2nd, battling with McEachern as we speak. But that battle seems to have slightly cooled off for the time being, as we'll head back there as I'm talking, because, well, knowing how quick those guys have been all day and how unpredictable that battle's been, it could happen any second, and it will. McEachern right up behind Lewick as they head into the corkscrew. McEachern getting right on his back bumper there in the MX-5, and yeah, bumps are a little bit more forgiving in the MX-5 than they are in some other series, but wow, Matt Clark's going to jump underneath. I forgot he was involved in this battle as well, and he'll slide right up under McEachern, and two Red Bull liveries in the black and white may have a battle developing as we come through the last corner. So McEachern, who's been having a very solid race all day and was looking to set up a pass there on Lewick momentarily, gets interrupted by Matt Clark, who capitalizes on the chaos in front of him. So maybe a little bit of good news for Justin Lewick, who has a bit more of a gap now that that incident went down. But yeah, you got to think it's more worrying to know that he's got 2 quick cars with the potential to pass him than 1 behind him. So yeah, I actually seem to have a bit of a squirrely entry into 1 there. So this battle could develop any second now. But let's just check with Logan Paxa, who, yeah, nothing has really changed for Mr. Paxa there. He seems to be, well, pretty consistently your fastest guy on track all day, at least as we speak currently. So yeah, I mean, after the first 2 races of the series, if you were to put some bets on a guy that could definitely compete, if not become a favorite for the championship early in the season, it's Logan Paxa, your current championship points leader, with a very solid first race at Indianapolis. Unfortunately unable to win, but again, thanks to bonus points and having both the most laps led and the fastest lap. You did get the pole that race, so yeah, taking away all the bonus points possible meant, well, he's your championship points leader, and if this race so far is anything to go by, that shouldn't be too much in jeopardy, at least not right this second. But again, it's important to mention, really anybody, especially people that are going through very aggressive lap-by-lap strategies, well, they could happen to succumb to an unfortunate crash. I know the kink coming up the hill to the corkscrew has been pretty brutal all day. We saw Rich Foligno, who is, yeah, I've confirmed is unfortunately out of today's race, but he was involved in a crash there earlier, as well as Matt Clark, your former pole sitter, who, well, when he got involved in that incident, sent him back to 3rd, fourth at the time, now up to 3rd, because he is, as we'll head back to that battle there, he is flying up through the field, and right behind Matt Clark is, Matt Clark, behind Justin Lewick as they cross the start-finish line. We could see a battle going down here, because they are really close. Clark's going to head to the inside, but Lewick is going to back off, so we might not clear him. Side by side, Matt Clark will take his position back from Justin Lewick, which means Clark will head back up to the 2nd position, and, well, McEachern may be able to capitalize here right behind, because, well, that checked up Lewick a little bit. Lewick now being in 3rd position, but this may be what McEachern needs. He actually goes a little bit wide there in that black, red, and white car, the only different of the three cars on your screen, of the 2 Red Bull liveries, that being Lewick and Clark. But wow, I mean, that was a pretty clean pass, one of our only really competitive on-track passes we've seen all day. But if that says anything to me about Matt Clark, it's that he came from about a 6-second deficit back to those 2 in front, that at the time being Lewick and McEachern, now both in his rearview mirror. But Clark running a little bit wide again. I'm starting to get worried about some of these guys racking up these penalty points, because, well, it's not huge penalties, but certainly the more you collect over the course of the day, it could come back to bite you. As we see, Well, McEachern goes a little bit wide there. I'm trying to tell what happened. The camera started to fade out as we came through the corkscrew, but the one thing standing out to me is just how quick Matt Clark has been able to break away. Luke and McEachern both pretty quick, but wow, yeah, Clark has gotten, well, I wouldn't even measure that with car lengths. He's got about a 2-second gap there now, so Matt Clark definitely a one to watch. Is, well, if he's able to get a good strategy going and he's able to run consistently quick laps, is, well, I think we've started to see it in this current stint for him. Well, he could be a competitor with Logan Paxo by the end of today's race if he's careful and he plays his cards right. So we will, when I come back, we'll do a quick through the field, but unfortunately with no cautions, it would appear. Well, you know, I don't really have a quick opportunity for breaks, so we will throw it back to Logan Paxo, your current. Actually, we'll stick with this view. I think this battle could develop, so let's pray that not too much develops here as I head away for a second, and I will be right back. So down through the corkscrew they come. We saw, if you're watching there, Matt Clark had a little bit of a bobble down through the corkscrew, which caused McEachern to check up a little bit. Sorry, that's Justin Lewick. I'm already mixing up my two Red Bull liveries, but yeah, we saw Lewick making a little bit of a mistake in the corkscrew, and McEachern was unfortunately unable to jump on that, but running right in behind Lewick, and yeah, he's sticking with him. I mean, Clark actually stopped breaking away quite as quickly as he was previously, but Clark, if you notice, has started to slowly catch up to Paxa in front. Now, with about 29 laps to go, you got to think he's got time to try to make something out of this race, at least when it comes to possibly winning the whole thing. That is Matt Clark that I am speaking of. But no, as we see, Lewick goes wide. McEachern might be able to jump underneath. Doesn't manage to clear him, but McEachern kind of took advantage of Lewick getting in the dirt patch there. Lewick's going to take the lead back. McEachern being a little bit conservative, but Lewick with the tire rub on the curb going into the corner, so McEachern may have the advantage here, but no, Lewick's able to close the door once again. So Lewick, a very solid defensive line in this battle here, as we see the battle box in the corner of this battle for third back up. But yeah, McEachern kind of dropped back a little bit. It seems like every time Lewick makes too aggressive of a move, well, McEachern in a smart play, if in my opinion, if he's trying to stay conservative and back off and try to avoid penalty points and really any collisions in general, well, he's doing a perfect job of it. But well, if he wants to take third position away from a very defensively aggressive Justin Lewick, this may be his best opportunity so far. McEachern, he's going to dive to the outside. Hopefully our camera is going to work with us here as they come together. Lewick is going to spin. McEachern has just sent Lewick around. Actually, McEachern came to a full stop. Lewick will come back, and neither man seems to have damage. That was a very polite move from McEachern if he was waiting to let Lewick back in line. So, well, that could have big consequences when it comes to either of these guys trying to win the race. But if I check my graphic with Paxo just coming out of the first corner now, and these two just about to head into our last corner, well, you know, it may be somewhat of a foregone conclusion on these guys trying to win the race through track position. But hey, again, as we saw through last week with the race being won on fuel strategy, you know, you never know. You never try to predict the leaders until the race is officially over. So as we see, Lewick managed to recover pretty well from the incident there with McEachern, but yeah, very, very classy move by McEachern if he was indeed slowing down to let him through. So Justin Lewick running very quick laps earlier. It's a shame to see them involved in a collision at all. I was hoping that, well, maybe he'd be able to mount a charge and try to catch up to Matt Clark there, under in the second position now. And, well, that means our top three positions are split pretty far apart, but best battle on track now would become, well, this one you're watching between Lewick and McEachern. So we're going to head back through the field. Unfortunately, this is one of those races that's, well, it's a little tough to commentate, because without a lot of play-by-play per lap when guys are this far apart, well, you got to talk strategy. And, Well, at the moment, until we come to the end of our first pit stint, which should actually be on lap. Let's check in a few laps from now, actually, because if I had to approximate, it's about a 20 to 25 lap pit window, which means, well, around lap 22, I would expect guys to start making that long drive down pit lane. So despite what I thought, there aren't appearing to be any actual full course cautions. So those incidents earlier don't seem to be checking up the leaders in any meaningful capacity, which is good news if you're Logan Paxa, because that 22-second lead, well, unless you spin or have trouble in the pits, that doesn't look like it's going to close anytime soon. So, no, if we watch this battle and see if this tries to escalate in any meaningful capacity. But I'll just take this brief moment where not too much is happening. Well, I'll try to check who that is coming into the pits there. That's Sugar or Elta Bang. We'll just check through the field. That's Logan Ferguson in the pits, our newcomer to the series. He's coming in for his pit stop, maybe a few laps early, but if he thinks he can conserve and try to use those new tires to his advantage and try to conserve fuel for the remainder of the race, well, this could be his only stop he comes in for. But as we head back to Justin Lewick for that battle for third, just to talk about the series in general. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to give too much information about today's race. I did mention the penalty point system. I mentioned, as I said before, 45 laps, about a 20 lap pit window, a maximum of 25 if drivers try to run a little more conservative than they are right now. But the way they're running, I don't see too many guys intentionally lifting, so I doubt that'll be the case. But move up a little bit and go to Jean Guerra, who appears to be getting passed by Justin Lewick. Didn't seem to be too much struggle up there for Lewick, so it's good to see some of the lap cars are being polite and letting guys by. But yeah, I do just want to say, so going forward, we go next week to Charlotte Roval, which if any of you are NASCAR fans out there, well, you can probably think of some pretty great finishes to some races at the Roval. Definitely some intriguing racing can be run by some drivers there. I think back, at least personally, to the battle in NASCAR a few years ago between Martin Truex Jr. and I believe it was Jimmy Johnson, where the two crashed in the last chicane of the track, and well, it meant a completely different driver running a ways back in third, Ryan Blaney. We see Crocker coming into the final corner with a bit of a spin there, recovers again. But yeah, Roval has been home to some great racing historically, and well, at least in my experience, so is Laguna Seca, but currently we're just kind of waiting for some guys to come in for pit stops before we see our on-track race and get a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, so as we talk about Roval coming up next week in the Skip Barber, so it'll be our first time in that specific formula style car. Well, I wouldn't say it's a cross between the MX-5 and the Indy car, but definitely something a little bit different than both. That should be an interesting race, I think, because Roval definitely, well, it's not an easy track to master, kind of a different way than Laguna Seca as we run here today. But with Laguna Seca, if you make a mistake, it's most commonly because you're taking too much of the runoff and you're running in the dirt, and well, you always have the chance to spin like we saw Foligno and Clark do earlier in the race in this uphill kink we come up to here. But yeah, so Roval is kind of an interesting comparison to this track, because the difficulty in Roval lies in another pretty polite move there by Guerra to let Lewick by for third. But yeah, I mean, Roval's a very, very different kind of Monaco, the F1 style track, where some internet connectivity issues for Lewick, but yeah, very tight walls in parts of the track and far less runoff. Any runoff there is usually grass, which is way more of a hindrance to cars than the dirt on the runoffs here at Laguna Seca. So big slide by Lewick, very nice turn there. That grass that you'll see next week at Roval, the infield grass you'd see at any oval. Indianapolis I believe has some, but certainly nowhere near as much as Charlotte Motor Speedway does. So yeah, it should be a very interesting race, and collisions are definitely going to be much more costly in that race, especially in the Skip Barber, where it's an open wheel car, and any collisions are a little bit more costly in terms of aerodynamic performance than an MX-5. So we stay on board with Lewick, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to Roval next week, but I'm also interested to see when pit lane stops start. Well, we might see a complete shift in the dynamic of this race as packs are running a little bit wide again. I believe that's Logan Ferguson who's going to let him by. Yeah, I'm going to just look at our track map, see if I can find any meaningful battles that I can make a point of. No, it's interesting. It just looks like everybody is kind of running their own race, and well, this kind of reminds me of a 24-hour style race where it really comes down to a battle of attrition and trying to run your line as consistently as you can and trust your instincts. Because sometimes when you come through laps with more lapped cars per se, that you're trying to drive around, it could throw off your line just a tad. And for some guys that run such consistent and focused lines, just one change in a corner can have ripple effects throughout the entire rest of your race. And well, it's just never anything you want to see for these guys that could have the races maybe not ended, but at least hindered by a lap car, and something that, well, at least in my understanding, from what I've seen, the lap cars are being very polite about so far. As we see Paxa trying to catch up to Jordan West there, who is currently sitting in 10th. So top 10 for West, who was a big talking point in our race last week, as we'll cut to him quickly. But those of you that remember, Jordan West drove the black and teal car in last week's race. He was involved in several battles up front there for position with a few guys, but Arnell Tabang with damage as we see him come through the corkscrew. Let's just go back and check. Tabang currently running in 12th and might have lost a position in the incident that just occurred, so go back and try to see what happened there to Mr. Tabang. Yeah, he definitely had damage there, but there we go. As we see him running slow there, we'll try to see what happened. See that cloud of smoke, and Tabang, this pretty evil corner that I talked about slightly earlier. I mentioned how damaging it can be to get in the dirt, and yeah, it's exactly what happened. He just got caught in there, and it hooked his front tires around and sent him into the, well, I guess in that case it's the inside wall, and the complete different side of the track. So yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Tabang will have damage as we go forward through the rest of the race, unless he comes into the pits to use his quick repair, which doesn't have aerodynamic advantages to do so, and well, it doesn't seem to be affecting his engine. So, oh, and he's going to catch it again, manages to save it that time, but an evil corner right there, and one of the ones that I, in my personal experience, have definitely had trouble with, and really several on the track like it, with some pretty evil curbing designs where you get a little bit too much airtime in your opposite side of the car to the tire that you're hitting it with, and well, that can be pretty dangerous for some guys just trying to run on their own and trying not to get involved in incidents. As we see Brian Ellis exiting the pits, will take that 10th position and move Jordan West up to 9th, at least for the time being. So Logan Paxa, I mean, as we mentioned earlier, he's kind of been the one rock in terms of top of the field performance of any driver in the first two races. Kind of, at least in my opinion, he was the guy I was expecting to come away with the victory on probably lap 100 of the Indy 300 last week. But yeah, thanks to fuel strategy, as we mentioned in the race recap, and another polite move there as we see West moving over to give him the position. But yeah, I mean, we saw last week where it looked like he had the race all but in the bag, but unfortunate pit timing meant that, well, Josh Gallagher was able to come away with the win last time. And Jordan West, I just mentioned that he made the very polite move to let Paxa get by him, appears to have spun in the exact same spot that several others have tonight. The two that come to mind are Matt Clark and Rich Foligno, but yeah, that corner, that one in the, that's corner 3, the one I was just mentioning with Arnell Tabang, well, yeah, some pretty difficult corners here, and not the ones you'd expect. I mean, if anybody looked at this track and were to guess, you'd probably guess that as we see him come through it, the corkscrew would be probably the most difficult corner on track, and well, that is to an extent true. It's certainly the most unpredictable, because until you take that hard left-hander to make it down the hill, well, it's kind of a blind corner. You can't see anything coming at you, so that's it's definitely a difficult one at times, but just the way it's designed is, well, I'll try to go on the track and see if I can find anybody going through it, just for context. But yeah, we'll jump back to Marco Felice in the 5th position there in the either of the two Mario Brothers cars. But yeah, Marco Felice, as we see him come through it, right about now, he would finally be able to see down the hill and see any cars maybe either slow or parked in the corkscrew, which is definitely where the difficulty comes from, is the unpredictability of, well, what's down there until you take the corner. But the way it's designed, it kind of, like a roller coaster almost, it sends you in and then shoots you through by design. As we see, if we look at the standings, Matt Clark has taken the lead, actually McKecker, and so if I had to guess, it means we're seeing some pit stops starting, and Paxa parked in his box. We see McClark must have a little bit of damage to do there, is, well, at least according to my graphics, he's been in there a little bit longer than some other drivers, but looks like once guys saw Logan Paxa enter the pits, well, that's when they all started to consider a trip down pit lane. So Paxa will exit, coming out in 2nd position, and Samuel McEachern will be your race leader, and I mean, as we saw last week, another guy that I was talking about the potential Paxa had to win in our first race, but yeah, McEachern, as we saw in our race recap, he came 4 laps away from making it on fuel. So you got to wonder for him, if he just played his cards a little bit differently and conserved fuel a little bit harder, could he have finished the race last week? Well, I guess we'll never know. But yeah, if he's got another similar fuel strategy going in today's race, well, it could pay off in spades for him, and he could. I think if he won the race after his performance last week, he could become our points leader. But actually, our first kind of interesting strategy note of the day, we see Paxa coming in on lap 23, exactly cutting his fuel stint in half, meaning if he's able to run another equal stint ahead of him, that he would finish the race with probably a lap of fuel to spare. But if he doesn't quite conserve as well as he did in that first stint, the second one, and he ran out of fuel, well, this could be very, very interesting for McEachern if he's able to get on average an extra lap out of his fuel per stint. As I would have thought he would come into the pits that last time by when Paxa and Clark and Lewick ahead of him did. But yeah, as he comes in this time, so he'll get an extra lap out of this stint, or at least his first one on his tank of gas. So McEachern, you got to wonder, maybe he's got a different fuel conservation strategy than the guys. Well, I should say ahead of him, because Pax is going to come right by as we see McEachern pulling into the pits. The other guy I want to talk about quickly, Todd Ricard, who hasn't really been a huge talking point, but he seems to be slowly catching up to Matt Clark, and maybe not even slowly at this point, only a second behind him, and Michael Trobach, who we haven't really talked about too much today, but he's just up the hill there, about 4 seconds back of Ricard. So Todd Ricard in the red and black car on your screen, he came up from 15th position all the way to 4th, and well, if that doesn't kind of advertise how good he's been at consistency, well, he's going to come into the pits here. So maybe I spoke a bit too soon, but Michael Krobach, as he comes through in, well, he'll be in 4th position when he comes around here, has also been running a very consistent race. And well, if Michael's able to push hard, he may be able to catch some of the guys in front of him. Actually, I should check the pits, because Samuel McEachern was still in the pits until right now, which means Justin Lewick should take his 3rd position back, but he'll take it back by a pretty considerable margin. I think McEachern won't come out of the pits until he's maybe 6 or 7 seconds back. But wow, as you see McEachern, yeah, at the top of the hill there, so you see how far ahead Lewick is, and McEachern almost loses it on pit exit. So yeah, definitely an interesting dynamic for those. Well, it'll be top 3 realistically on track positions. Sorry, I should say top 4. Matt Clark still in 2nd place. So Michael Krobach, I don't believe he's pitted thus far. Yeah, I don't remember seeing him in the battle for 3rd place. I mean, he had an incident all the way on our first lap, so you'd think if he was able to pull kind of a Logan Paxer from last week and get involved in an incident and make a hard charge all the way up through the field again, that would be quite the impressive 3rd place finish. But I believe he's just running some smart fuel conservation laps here, so if I had to guess, he would be pitting momentarily. But actually, if I think about it now, if he came in to repair damage and just happened to pick up fuel along the way, well, you may have a few extra fuel laps. There's a tongue twister for you. He may have a few extra fuel laps that, well, before the end of the day, could affect his race if he's able to maybe save a pit stop here and there from some others. So as we check our standings here, it doesn't look like too much of a change happening. Still, as we check the track map, not too many major battles happening on track. The only one I could see happening here is if Luke is able to catch Krobach. But if my theory is right and Krobach doesn't indeed need to pit, then that could also not be the case either. As you see there, Rich Foligno and Renee Hart, your 2 drivers out of the race so far today. And well, I believe if I check my graphics, it looks like, I'm trying to tell there. Looks like he's still on track. So, I thought I had received a message seeing some guys were starting to exit today's race, but it looks like with those quick repairs, nobody's quite counted themselves out entirely yet today. Now, we check back to the timing tower, and well, my theory that Clark may be able to catch up on Paxa under a green flag stint there, well, that kind of put the kibosh on that, because it would appear Clark has dropped back about 11 seconds in that or I should say the pit stop window there. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't seem to be the case at this point. And well, I'm just trying to come up with something to say about Mr. Paxa, because he has just been the definition of consistency today. We talked earlier today about his line, and how aggressive he was being, running the quickest laps by far out of anybody in yesterday's practice session. But, well, he said he was going to try to be a little bit more consistent and just practice his corners that he was having trouble running wide in. And, well, as we see him run wide in one there, you got to wonder, could we be seeing a penalty coming to Mr. Logan Paxa momentarily? But I'm impressed, because after watching him yesterday in practice, he seems to have definitely become a little bit more, maybe not toned down, but a little bit more responsible with his driving line, I should say. And yeah, it's culminated in about a 33-second lead for Mr. Paxas. So as we move back in the field a little bit, Matt Clark running the second. We'll kind of turn this into a little checking on through the field session. But McEachern, we see past Krobach there. So I had theorized that Krobach was going to have to come into the pits one lap or another. And, well, he finally will, which means McEachern and Ellis will pass him. And I believe Felice isn't too far behind. No, he should be. There he is in the Mario car coming by. So it's Paxa running in first position, trying to chase down Todd Ricard in the lap car there. Oh, almost coming together. We may need to check that out. No, Ricard, never mind. He's going to let him by pretty clean. That's one thing I'm really impressed with. Is one thing I was worried with how difficult and sloping some of the corners are. Well, it can be hard to try to predict where lap cars or if you're a lap car, where leaders are going to go around you. Whereas on an oval, well, it's just big long straightaways. Just sit to whatever line the leader isn't trying to run and let him by. But a little more difficult here at road courses. But I'm impressed with how civilized everybody's been so far. And we see Jordan West being chased down by Matt Clark there in the second position. And it's hard to tell, but we move back to our other Red Bull black and white entry, and Justin Lewick sitting in third position. And, well, he doesn't seem to quite have the race pace that Clark and Paxa ahead of him do. But, well, he's once again running consistent laps that could be all he needs to take a podium position away from today's race. Then we move back in the field to McEachern, running in fourth, and he's been close and consistent enough to Lewick that, well, if he's able to string a few good laps together and hit his marks for a while, well, he could be right back up to a battle for third with Justin Lewick and go for his second podium to start the season. You know, I definitely don't think he'd complain with that. Then we see Brian Ellis running in fifth, who started fifth, still in fifth, and I believe it would be his first top five of the season. So I definitely don't think he would have too much of an issue with finishing where he is right now. At least not if the race were to end as it has so far. Marco Felice, actually, in that Mario entry, who, as I mentioned in practice earlier today, was running some blazing quick laps, almost quicker than Logan Paxa, your current race leader. So it would be pretty cool to see him maybe get the fastest lap bonus point or something along those lines. As you know, you got to think that's still something that the guys on the track right now are going to be thinking about going further into this race. Is, well, is there any easy way I can get some bonus points out of maybe something I can control, where it's maybe, I don't know, maybe if there's nobody behind you on track and everybody behind just crashed out, well, maybe head into the pits, take some new tires, and try to run the fastest lap you can. I know realistically in Felice's case that'd be a realistic strategy, but when you're in sixth, yeah, I definitely wouldn't make an unnecessary pit stop if I don't need to, because, again, he's not that far behind Ellis, only 4 seconds as you can see on our graphic, and then 8 up to McEachern, who's kind of slowed down a little bit in his last few laps. So if he's able to string together some good passes, he could be up to fourth, all without the need for an incident, as he takes a big bump off the curb there. Felice trying to get every single second he can out of this MX-5, but just a little too close there. That could be dangerous if he doesn't watch out going forward in this race. But yeah, as we move back to Michael Krobach sitting in seventh, who, well, we were theorizing whether he'd be able to maybe contend for a podium position here. Fortunately, had some damage he needed to fix on that pit stop, and, well, unless we see a two-stop race for pretty much everybody running on track, well, I don't think he'll be able to make too much of a push further up the field than he has. Maybe to catch Marco Felice and Brian Ellis trying to get himself a fifth position, but even that I don't think is all too realistic at this point. As we see Logan Ferguson, it said on my timing screen he crashed a minute ago. Doesn't seem to have any damage from that incident, if he has had one at all. But Sean Guerra, another guy running there in 12th. Yeah, I mean, he's, from what I understand, he's at a pretty consistent and clean race. Doesn't seem to be involved in any incidents with some leaders. So sometimes that's really all you can ask for from other guys in this race. Is, well, it's only fitting to talk about leaders and lap cars with the gentleman that'll probably pass a few while I'm talking. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the season as a whole, running in the second race of the year, I mean, you're going to get involved in incidents with people at the beginning of the year that could have long-term effects as we look forward in this calendar season. Because if you get involved in too many incidents with a particular driver, or really the field as a whole, well, that could lose you brownie points, at least socially, with the other drivers. And drivers that are upset at you or that have some beef from past races, that's never anything you'd wish on anybody, because an angry driver is, well, it's certainly not something that will positively affect your race finishes, I would say. So, yeah, guys like Mr. Guerra and really all the lap cars I saw earlier in the race just seem to be very polite about letting leaders by and not affecting their races. So, definitely something to look at going forward. And it's just good to see, as somebody who's kind of trying to moderate this whole season and trying to get this all put together. I'm glad to see the drivers being polite and very sportsmanlike. Because, ooh, who's that in the dirt? That's, I believe, if I know my livery's right, that's Logan Ferguson. It is indeed. And, well, I got a notification saying Ferguson crashed a moment ago, but it would appear to have happened again. And hopefully this isn't the start of a trend for Logan, as too many incidents like that would put his penalty points sky high and get him a penalty for the remainder of this race. Almost kept it off the wall, but his back end just whacked hard into that inside wall coming up the kink. And, well, that corner, if there's been a story of the day all day, it's been that uphill kink. As well, it's put the kibosh on a few drivers' races today, not the least of which, as we can see, being Logan Ferguson. So, yeah, that corner that, well, at least not in my personal experience, I wouldn't expect to be too much of a hindrance for guys, seems to have been absolutely brutal for a few drivers. And Ferguson, after his second incident in 2 laps, will come into the pits. So, trying to look on track to see if we have any more battles to report. I mean, Lewick and McEachern seem to be maybe have a battle coming to a head momentarily as Lewick comes down through the corkscrew. We'll see where McEachern is in that comparative battle. So, yeah, he's not too far back. If he's able to string together a few more quick laps, as if I look at my lap tracker, he seems to have been running pretty well for himself, at least for the time being. So, yeah, we could see another battle for third forming here. And as I mentioned before, McEachern, I'm certain he would take another podium if he was able to get it. So that would probably, well, depending on where Mr. Gallagher is running in this race, that being 9th, I believe he'd move up to 2nd in the standings. So certainly nothing to complain about for McEachern if he's able to make that happen. And got a report that John Guerra crashed. Maybe you saw it in the background there, but a little bit of damage on his car. We're looking to get any shred of entertainment out of this race we can, because it's been pretty quiet so far. But it didn't look like a crash to me. It just looked like maybe he just got his turning apex a little bit wrong, and, well, he got my software to act up. So Logan Paxa running up there, and well, any of our fans want to take a guess where he's running? I mean, it's kind of been the story of the day. Nobody seems to be able to catch Mr. Paxa, but, well, we'll actually haven't done actually, in the background, before I go on break, Mr. Michael Krobach kind of gets sideways coming out of another very difficult corner, that last one before the front stretch. As he takes a little bit of dirt to the tires, but no major damage, which is good news for him, as he remained in 7th despite the incident. So we're going to go with a quick on board with Mr. Logan Paxa, and I'm going to take a brief break, and I will be right back, and hopefully there'll be a battle on screen to report when I do return. But yeah, let's head to a kind of a cockpit camera with Mr. Paxa, and I will be back momentarily. And I'm back. Had to take another brief break there. As I mentioned last week, really in races like this with no co-commentator next to me, it's hard to not fill the time completely with talking. And when you do, well, your voice gets dry pretty quick. So I figure better to take brief breaks than that than have my voice all hoarse and hard to hear. But I did just check the YouTube chat briefly when I went on that little break there, and well, I noticed that Logan Paxa seems to have quite the fan base following him. A few guys there definitely Team Luigi in this particular race. I will try, if he is one of our top 3 drivers, I will try to interview Mr. Pax after the race, and well, I'll throw it out to the YouTube chat, who all seem to be very hard supporters of Logan, that being Paxa rather than Ferguson. I mean, Ferguson has some supporters as well, so it's good to see the Logans getting some representation in the chat. But if anybody has any questions they want me to ask to Paxa post-race, let's keep them appropriate, of course. Yeah, if anybody has any legitimate questions or questions for me, even as we come with 13 laps to go, it'll be 13 once Paxa crosses the line. But any questions they want to ask me about the series or about racing in general? I mean, I'm a big iRacing or IndyCar or NASCAR or even to an extent F1 fan, so just need something to kill the time when some guys just don't seem to be having many crazy interesting battles. As well as I say that, Brian Ellis and Marco Felice, the other of the 2 Mario Brothers cars, the Mario car, who, well, he probably seems to have a very similar fan base, I would guess, based on his livery. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, whether it's for Logan or for myself or just for anybody. Just trying to get a chat going here for all 34 of our viewers watching at home. I'm actually really impressed with that because, well, I wish the race were a little bit more interesting right now for those watching at home. But, you know, I'm glad that the series is able to garner this much attention and this many, this many viewers this early in the season. I really hope that moving forward we're able to get a good fan base for this, and maybe some of you in the chat are aspiring drivers yourselves that would hope to join the series before too long. So trying to make a thing out of this, and as I mentioned last week at the end of the race, I mean, I'm really passionate about what I'm doing, and I know a lot of these drivers are really happy that they can have any audience watching them in their iRacing pursuits that maybe they perhaps wouldn't in a regular day-to-day racing situation. So it's really good for me to see all the attention this is getting, and even if it's just family and friends, and I'd guess friends definitely being the case for Mr. Logan Paxa there. But yeah, it's just good to see a following happening here. And well, as we see Marco Felice in the Mario car flying right up the inside of Ellis. Wow, it was a pretty clean pass for sure, but Felice kind of got caught on the inside curb there. As this might not be over. We're going to go to an overhead cam for the first time in a while as Brian Ellis sitting on the outside of Felice. They may go side by side here. Ellis does seem to have a good run to his outside, so if he's able to keep side by side, I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to get the jump on the exit, but maybe try the over-under there. It won't work as Felice, pretty perfect corner there defensively, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if with the pace he was showing, he was able to break away. Nonetheless, Ellis is able to stay in his draft. It's actually a very interesting angle to watch the race. As we see Ellis, yeah, just doesn't seem to be giving up too much time at the moment. As you see, actually another thing I want to mention, those dirt patches that have started to form over the course of the race, kind of that sandy runoff, as you see right over there. Guys that collect too much dirt of off-track incidents and then come back on, well, they leave a big pile of, oh, that's actually a very long one, but just a big long line of sand there on the race surface, and if too many guys hit it over and over again, you see that big, long, sandy inside the line there. No doubt from guys crashing in the uphill kink corner. But yeah, if too many guys get in that sandy area and build up a big sand pile, well, that can absolutely destroy grip on some tires, and it can be all you need for this race to go haywire and to force an incident, because there is no grip in those parts of the track. And well, the longer this race runs, as we come up to, I believe, lap 34. The longer this race runs, the larger those get. As we see Marco Felice comes into the pits. So actually a little bit early on this current fuel run if it was going the way I thought. I mean, lap 35 when he comes around. Wow, I'm honestly surprised to see anybody pitting that early, at least if they're going for a traditional two-stopper. I was thinking we may not even see another pit stop so far in this race. So as we look ahead, Samuel McEachern. Actually, I don't know if maybe I missed it, but he appears to have a sizable lead to Justin Lewick. I don't know if Lewick may be pitted again, but very surprised that's the case. Is McEachern coming up? back into the uphill section here, and McEachern with Lewick, if I check the timing tower, about 10 seconds behind him, so Lewick must have pitted to allow McEachern to have this lead, but Samuel McEachern looking for his second third in 2 weeks, and, well, if I'm him, I'd definitely be happy with this race finish, and, you know, the man I feel most unfortunate for in this race is kind of Matt Clark, because, boy, it felt like he hasn't really put anything wrong so far in today's race. I mean, he had an incident earlier coming up through the that uphill sweeping kink corner there, but you know, he just seems to have kind of found his rhythm again and has run about as consistently as one would expect of our pole sitter, but he doesn't really have anybody around him. I mean, he's 36 seconds back of our leader Logan Paxa, who, I mean, limited to maybe only a crash. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be able to maintain his lead the rest of the race, but yeah, and then he's got a 25-second back to McEachern, and so he hasn't really had a meaningful on-track battle in, well, maybe 30 laps. So, you know, it can become kind of a fatigue after a while, I can say from experience, running some longer road course races. I mean, you can't get in a rhythm like you can in an oval, because every single corner is different. And when that's the case lap after lap with nobody around you to keep you entertained, well, you know, what do you have to really think about and keep you focused? So, I mean, respect to Matt Clark. He's keeping his laps almost exactly consistent. He hasn't let that gap to Paxa extend. So if Paxa has an unfortunate incident and Clark's able to take advantage, well, this race might not be over. But I've been talking about him a lot here. But Logan Paxa, I don't foresee him having another incident so far this race. Just the way, as I talked to him earlier, he's wanting to be more conservative, and well, it's working for him because he's rock solid in terms of his racing line. It doesn't seem like anybody can find a way to maintain his speed for such a long burst of time. So I'm just going to quickly check the chat here because, once again, another one of those stints where not too much is happening. Let's just, well, we do have a question here from Keith. So we'll at least have a quick question to ask Mr. Paxa if we can get him in an interview post-race. But actually a very interesting one for his pit strategy compared to last week, because yeah, if there was anybody that probably would have lost sleep over their pit strategy, it was Logan last week. And as I mentioned in our pre-race recap, he pitted only 7 laps ahead of the end of the race, which was really unfortunate, I think, for his hopes at maybe trying to get his confidence up as we go forward this season, just because, well, as we even saw by the bonus points, and as we'll mention the championship standings later, he absolutely dominated the majority of that first race, but when it came crunch time, it looked like he just couldn't maintain fuel long enough and couldn't conserve quite as hard as he may have wanted to. And, well, that unfortunately put the kibosh on his hopes for a win for the day, as that, well, just narrowly went to Josh Gallagher, who, actually, as we mentioned him, Josh seems to be sitting in ninth there. So looks like he lost a place at some point along the course of this race. And if you check the track map, he is way back from 8th place. That's Marco Felice in the Mario car. So, well, it's maybe not the way Josh Gallagher would have liked to continue his currently undefeated season, but it looks like it'll change, unfortunately, for Mr. Gallagher. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's getting tough to try to think of talking points here, because, oh my goodness, I mean, this has been pretty clean, cut and dry race for most of our drivers today, as McEachern coming up the hill trying to chase after Marco Felice, running in 8th position and a lap or two down. But yeah, I mean, this if there was any race this season I thought would have a lot more incidents than it has, it's this one. But I think that more so just kind of speaks to the talent of some of the guys, or really all the guys in our series, because like, this is a track that I would probably have a decent amount of trouble staying clean, even if I was intentionally super conservative and by no means aggressive for 45 laps. I would have trouble keeping it clean for anywhere near the entire portion of this race. So to see everybody after that kind of chaotic first few laps of today's race, well, they've kind of settled down, and everybody for the most part seems content with where they are. And while some seem to be running quicker laps than others, I mean, Matt Clark, as he tries to make his way through the field of Logan Paxa, is kind of maintained that 36 approximately second gap. But, well, he's certainly not getting pulled away from by Paxa, but he's not closing in on him too quickly either. But yeah, as we go forward to Charlotte Roval next week, and the week after that, we've actually got our first dirt race of the season, and our only on the entire calendar season. But we're going to Lanier Dirt Track in the Dirt Street Stock Series for what should be a pretty fun night of racing. I'll talk about that briefly because that will actually be our only heat race style setup of the season, because we'll be running 2 heat races on that race, each made up of either 8 to 10 drivers for each, depending on how hard the field turns out to be. I'm hoping, actually, that by then we may have 24 drivers in the series. We have a few open spots that I'm talking to people about, just other karting drivers throughout Ontario that happen to be friends and acquaintances of people in the series already. But yeah, so depending on how many guys we have at that point, we'll be having 2 heat races, both at the same dirt track. So it'll be 8 to 10 drivers on their own in Heat 1. The positioning and drivers in each heat will be based on championship standings at that point, which I will be sure to update all of you on after today's race. But yeah, so it'll be 2 heat races, each made up of 10 drivers. At that point, based on their finishing positions in that heat, no points will be awarded in those, by the way. But those 2 heats will then decide the starting position for our final, which will be a 3 times longer version of the 2 heat races from earlier. At which point we will crown our position standings as normal in terms of the championship going forward. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a little bit, I think, just a tad bit longer than today's broadcast, but it'll be 3 mini races all rolled into one. So should be a slightly more interesting style for our viewers out there. So well, hopefully we can have a few more talking points than today's race. But again, I think from a driver's standpoint, this is just a really impressive showing from everybody. Well, nobody really seems to be making any mistakes, at least not after those drivers earlier got caught in the kink in that one uphill sweeper. But yeah, I mean, I'm proud of everybody running today's race. And unfortunately, Rich Foligno and Rene Hart were the 2 drivers I saw heading out early in today's race. Actually, quite a few appear to have dropped out. But that's unfortunate. I mean, a few of these guys I know Arnel Tabang, as I saw in our pre-race recap, he got in a big crash with Logan Pax at the beginning of last week's race. But you know, you definitely hope for a few less incidents. Neither of which I believe he caused. I think he's had the tendency to get caught and stuff, unfortunately. And well, I know he's got quick race pace, and from what I've seen of him, he's quick on his own. So if he can just find a way to avoid the unfortunate incidents happening in front of and behind him, well, he could definitely be a threat moving on this season. But well, again, I mean, as we come to 5 laps to go, or should I say 6 when Paxton X crosses the line, I mean, Logan Paxton doesn't get more dominant from anybody so far this season than him. It just looks like if there's any benchmark to live up to for other drivers, it's Logan. And I know he said that some tracks he was looking forward to this year may be a little bit more difficult than others for him. He wasn't feeling super confident about Roval because he's just not much of a Skip Barber guy to my understanding. But dirt as well, that dirt race at Lanier in round 4 of the season, I think that's kind of the most unpredictable of any race we're going to go through, because well, I know a lot of these karting guys really have no reason to join dirt races, at least not in their day-to-day iRacing career, because I mean, I certainly don't. I know they're fun and it's a very different style of racing from anything else they'll go through this year, but I mean, it's just not something most people want to race. At least not. Sorry, I should make clear, not something that maybe a lot of Canadians want to race. We just don't have that kind of dirt track scene that kind of the southern states in America have. But I know down there, it's sometimes it's the only thing a lot of iRacing guys run down there, and totally respectable. I mean, it's a very cool style of racing for competitive races, and short tracks always leading to more lap traffic, which means more carnage. And yeah, but just a lot of guys in the series, almost none, have experience in dirt oval racing. So that's what I'm definitely excited for in terms of kind of guys out of their element and some tough, consistent battles all throughout the race broadcast. But unfortunately, maybe can't say the same here as Logan Paxa comes around. He will have 5 laps to go when he next takes the line. But yeah, maybe we'll go back into the chat because, well, unfortunately, not many other questions from anybody. Just generally more appreciation for Logan Paxa, as he seems to have a few guys in there that are forming a bit of a cheering section, and you know, it's good to see. But we got to get some variety in here. I mean, we can't have all of our fans cheering for one guy, because then it becomes NASCAR with Dale Jr. and that's just boring. So let's make it fun. Anybody, even if you don't know somebody in the race, just feel free to cheer for a driver in the chat. Get their confidence up, and I know appreciation from fans is something that really any competitive driver strives for. At least I know as a kid I used to. But that is a story for another day. Let's see who's sitting in 7th there. It's Todd Ricard, who, well, he was a big talking point in our last race, as he was involved in a few incidents, not all of which his fault at the Indy 300. But, well, Mr. Ricard has run pretty consistently today. It just seems like he doesn't have that killer instinct he seemed to have the 300 last week. As well, Matt Clark, our second place driver, will drive straight underneath him there. But yeah, I mean, Todd's another guy that, well, he seems to put in a lot of laps in our practices. We always run or at least so far this season, we run a practice race or a practice test the night before every race of our season. But yeah, it seems like Ricard's one of those guys that comes in and runs as many laps as he can. And, well, he seems like a guy that wants to succeed in this series. It's just unfortunately in today's race, whether it be just some really quick lines from the guys in front of him or an unfortunate incident earlier in the race, it just wasn't his day, unfortunately, at least not for a top 5 position. I mean, a 7th position out of a 17 driver field tonight. That's not bad at all. I mean, that's top, like, what, 30th percentile? Well, maybe not 30th. That's just horrible math there. But yeah, you know, he's definitely running quick for a guy that got in all that practice this week. So, you know, it's good to see that maybe paying off in the points. And if he's been able to stay clean today and run a few nice laps, well, maybe that's all he needs going forward this season to get his confidence up. And once we get to a track that maybe suits his personal driving style a little more, well, we could see a win from Todd Ricard moving forward. And really, there's nobody I've watched this season that I wouldn't think could win a race in the right conditions as we go forward. Which, I mean, really, today's race may have not have been all I may have hoped it would be. But oh, actually, Logan Ferguson running off up top at the corkscrew through the dirt there. But yeah, as I was saying, maybe not all I was hoping it would be for today's race. But, you know, I'm feeling pretty optimistic going forward for the Karts to Computers iRacing series. I think there's some solid guys in here that could have some interesting races moving forward. Actually, I'm wondering with Ferguson there, if he took damage in that crash, maybe we'll go back through a replay here and see what happened up there. Because at least to my understanding, he was driving by himself. I don't know what would have happened there. And actually, that's interesting, because I thought maybe he got caught in a kink there, and that's why his car was already damaged. But, well, he got kind of sideways, but he saved it there. He's going straight up the hill, and I am honestly not sure what happened there. Goodness, yeah, he just looks like he came right off, and, well, it wasn't really a result of anything. He just seemed to just tootle off the track, and you gotta wonder if maybe a connectivity issue or maybe his wheel got unhooked. But yeah, I unfortunately can't really explain what happened there. So gonna head back live, and, well, I know his fan base is raging in the comments. So, you know, let's head back to Mr. Logan Paxa. Let me check our timing tower. He only has 3 more laps until well, at least if the race ends, as I would assume it will, and history has said that it likely will. Logan Paxa will likely be your race winner today. And again, after talking to him all week and knowing that he was disappointed with, we've lost our race feed here. Well, it looks like, well, we had one last week, and we'll see if we can take another brief pause as I try to get our race footage back, because, well, you don't want to miss the finale of today's race. Actually, our track map appears to be working for some bizarre reason, so we're just going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. I'll throw back to commercial, and when I come back, hopefully the race will be able to finish up with some good quality. So, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I will be back moment.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the brief delay there. We got our feedback up right in time as we see Logan Paxa take the white flag to get ready for his final lap of the race. And it doesn't seem like we have too many major changes happening, at least for timing and scoring. Sorry about our timing tower there being off with the reset for the session. Well, the graphics switch around, and it means that we won't have timing stats until they come across the line again. But well, we'll take this opportunity to maybe drive on board for at least part of the lap with Logan Paxa here. Sorry about that. We'll just turn down his in-car audio a little bit. But man, I mean, when it comes to consistent and just all-around solid races, Logan Paxa seems to deliver, at least as he has so far this season. As he's coming up behind Brian Ellis, a lap car. But well, if the rest of this race is anything to go by, lap cars don't seem to have too much of an effect on our leaders, thanks to, well, their very polite, sportsmanlike driving style. But yeah, I mean, Logan Paxa today, wow, he was the class of the field for sure. It looked like only Matt Clark could really compete with his pace, and when Mac unfortunately went out in an incident earlier in the race, that meant this is pretty much Pax's to lose. As well, we'll come through the corkscrew and we'll send it back to our main camera. As that's not it. There we go. Back to our main cameras. Well, Luigi, man, the games come second up to Mario every time, but well, with Marco Felice finishing in 8th and in that Mario Kart, it looks like Luigi will finally get his time in the spotlight. And well, Luigi and Mario maybe jump men, but he didn't really have to jump up through the standings all too much today, did he? I mean, Paxa started second on the front row. And as he comes through the final corner, Paxa with a dominant race to make up for last race, as he will become or maintain your points leader. Logan Paxa, as he's going to swerve and celebrate. Logan Paxa wins his first race of the season and your second of the 2020 Karts to Computers iRacing Series. Its winner is Logan Paxa. Now, unfortunately, Logan will take a bit of a victory dive off to the outside there, but well, we may have to wait a minute for second place Matt Clark to come around. I don't know if Mr. Pax's donuts, but well, we have a few more guys to figure out there, Logan. Maybe want to settle down there as Matt Clark will come around. And I mean, as I talked about, kind of second command to Pax's pace all day. Clark felt like he was about as quick as Pax. Just again, unfortunate result there at the beginning meant that the crash from earlier will move him down a spot from our pole sitter, but still second place, Matt Clark. Very solid performance from him today. But one guy I want to talk about as he comes through the corkscrew here, Sam McEachern. I mean, it felt like last week he said that his lack of confidence was going to be his downfall, but well, with a third place position, it wasn't the case then, and with another third place podium today, it won't be the case now. McEachern coming up from 9th all the way to 3rd to round out today's top 3, but man, Sam McEachern, I believe this will put him second in the points behind Logan Paxa, so all around did what he needed to do to get his points cashed in for today. And well, as we get ready to watch him come across the finish line, Sam McEachern will round out your top 3 today. Very solid race from the 88 car. Now let's look back in the field a little bit. Justin Lewick will stick with him for a little bit as he comes across in 4th. Another very solid performance today. Those top 5, that being Paxa, Clark, McEachern, Lewick, and Ellis. All kind of the definition of consistency today. But, well, and unfortunately it looks like as I try to cut to him, Pax's victory celebration has finished. But why not? We'll give all his fans a quick replay look at his celebration there. As I have a special guest here on the broadcast, but unfortunately, it is my dog, so I don't believe she will serve as an extra commentator for me today. As well, we're still trying to see Logan's replay of his. Well, this didn't work out nearly as well as I thought it would, so kind of a failed endeavor, unfortunately. But Logan Paxa is today's race winner, and if I can pull up our race results graphic, let me just bring that up for you. Get all of our race graphics off screen. Where is our race results? There we are. So your race winner today finished second, runner-up last week, and well, he was your championship points leader without winning, and presumably that lead will extend with the win as Logan Paxa, a 42-second lead over Matt Clark, running in second place. Those two were your front row sitters for qualifying, and well, that just kind of flipped for our race results today. As it'll be Paxa, Clark, and Sam McEachern with his back-to-back third position for this season, finishing in 3rd. Justin Lewick started to close in on McEachern at the end of the race there, but Mr. Lewick will finish in 4th. Brian Ellis will finish in 5th. Michael Krobach will finish in sixth position. Todd Ricard finishing in seventh. Marco Felice, the other of the two Mario Brothers cars there, with well, very solid practice this week, but unfortunately just wasn't able to translate it to the race with a few incidents. Marco Felice finishing eighth. Josh Gallagher, your race winner for the first race of the Karts to Computers iRacing Series season, finishing in ninth. So if I had to guess, I'll likely move down to third or fourth in the championship points because of that finish. Logan Ferguson, another driver with a pretty solid following in the chat there, but he'll take a top 10 position, which I'm sure for his debut in the series and seeing how consistently and sportsmanlike he was running, well, I think it bodes well for Mr. Ferguson going forward in this season. Freddie Esposito, unfortunately, didn't get a chance to talk much about him today, but looked like he left our race at some point, finishing in 11th. Jordan West finishes in 12th. John Guerra, don't mind the way it's spelled there, in 13th. Marshall Crocker, my father, finishing in 14th. Unfortunately, crashed out at some point in the race, and well, he will finish in 14th today. As Arnel Tabang sitting behind him in 15th, and Rich Foligno ran well only 8 laps of today's race, but he will finish 16th. And Renee Hart, I believe he either had tech troubles or just got involved in a crash early, as he will finish 17th with no laps finished in today's race. So, well, now it comes up to my part as producer to try to hook up some interviews. And, well, actually, it would appear, if I'm correct, we have all three of our podium drivers sitting in the chat. This is perfect. So we will start today. Let me just cut back to one of his old clips today. But Sam McEachern will be our first interview of the day. Let's go back a ways and try to find maybe a Sam McEachern moment from earlier. Just something to show for him while I set up the interview. But let's at least get the name key going for you here. Is that going to work? There you go. Okay, so Sam McEachern will be our first interview of the day, finishing in a solid third place position. Let me just let's get my mic set up here and try to get the audio to work this time, unlike last week. Hey Sam, it's Marshall. You got me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, well, I talked to you last week in this very similar position. In our talk last week, I was talking about how you were feeling a little bit unconfident about Indy, and you managed to come away with a third place. But as we come out to the sandy waving corners of Laguna Seca, well, you've taken another back-to-back third place. Was it just you were feeling more confident coming into today's race, or what was it that allowed you to be so quick today?
I don't know. Like my qualifying wasn't good. I was on pace for a pretty good lap, like a low 141, and then or a higher 141, and then I just plowed in the second corner, missed my brake, or in the last corner and missed my braking point, and I just lost it all down the straight. So I qualified bad. I qualified 8th, and then there was a big incident in turn 1, which I haven't been able to go back and look at yet. But I moved up to 4th by the exit of turn 1, and then just ran steady the whole race. Me and Justin were nose to tail for a long time there. And then I accidentally gave him a bump in the corkscrew under braking. And then I basically just let him go because I felt bad. And then we were like 5 seconds apart the whole race. And then even after the pit stop, we were again like still 5 seconds apart. And then he spun on his own, like in the second to last corner. So then I just picked it up. It was pretty lucky actually, but slow and steady, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The kind of the story of today was consistency, and how sportsmanlike guys were being. And I noticed that incident in the corkscrew today, and I was really impressed because you don't see a lot of guys backing off when they had an incident there. And I know you and Lewick got together there, and really you two were neck and neck all day. But was there anybody early in the race you noticed that was run particularly quick here, or was there any changes you made to your line compared to others all day?
No, I actually, when I got behind, when it was me and Mac and Justin kind of all running together after Mac spun, I feel like I learned a bit from those guys. Mac and Logan, class of the field, obviously. So they had nice clean lines, and I felt like I gained some speed through as the race went on. But yeah, I don't think anyone had anything for Mac and Logan. They were killing it. But yeah, it was a fun race, nice and consistent. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the Roval. I'm gonna go practice right now actually, because I've never driven on the Roval, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
glad
actually
you picked up a podium here because I don't know about the Roval. We're gonna see it. I've never tried to lap there, so.
Well, you took the question right out of my mouth. I was just about to ask how you feeling about Roval going forward, and how much experience do you have in the Skip Barber?
I'd say that's the main car that I run on iRacing. So uh, at least I know the car very well, and it actually is quite an easy car to drive. It's got great handling and it's got good lateral grip. It's hard to spin it, so I think that'll be okay as long as I can run clean. But it's easy to get big damage in the sk- in the skip in the skip arbor because. If you get like slight contact with someone, then the wheels can break, the suspension can break. You can hurt your wings really easily. So everyone's got to be pretty careful, I feel like. But I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you pretty much explained the car as well as I ever could. So thanks, Sam. And before we move on to our interview with Mac in second place, do you have anybody you want to thank or give a shout out to after your performance today?
You, because I'm having a ton of fun. I'm really glad that you organized this, and just appreciate all your work with the league.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, that's really all I could ask is people having a fun time, and the whole point of this is guys that would much rather be on the track, getting a chance to have fun in iRacing. So thanks, Sam. I mean, I'm looking forward to talking to you again next week, and this, at least in the way you're driving, this exact same
Y-
position. But maybe you'll move up
Maybe it'll
and
be another podium. We'll see.
exactly. You can only hope, eh? But well, thanks, Sam, for
Cheers,
the interview,
Marshall.
and have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, man. You too.
Well, it was our first interview there of the day with Mr. Sam McEachern coming home with a very solid third place. But we'll move on to Matt Clark, who is also in our waiting room here. Let me just bring Mr. Clark into our commentary booth here. Hey, Mac, it's Marshall. You got me? Okay, well, first of all, just a very solid race overall. Congratulations. I mean, not only were you the pole sitter today, but man, you just seem to have a class of the field when it came to pace that only Mr. Logan Paxa could seem to replicate. But what was it that maybe you found out in practice or over the course of the race? Just what made you so quick, you think, over the other guys you were driving with?
Well, first of all, thank you for the nice compliment. And qualifying on pole was a little bit of a surprise to me, to be honest, because I haven't been practicing as much as I would have liked to. But in the race, I was kind of just starting to get used to the car and the track again. I mean, I've driven here previously with my friends and in a few series, and I just started to get a little bit more comfortable with the car and try to minimize mistakes. I had a rocky, I'm not sure what lap it was, but I did like a lazy half spin on one of the opening laps, and I think that's what lost me the race. But other than that, I think my pace was good, and I had a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least from what I saw with your pace and your comparison to Mr. Logan there, I mean, you were our second fastest, if not fastest guy of the day, and you proved that on in qualifying. It was just yeah, just walk us through like what happened in your incident there. It was kind of the kink corner coming up the hill towards the corkscrew. Just what kind of happened to you there?
So I've recently taken up live streaming and started my own Twitch channel, and I'm still new at sim racing in general, never mind streaming at the same time. So finding that balance of like talking and driving at the same time has been a challenge for me. So I was talking to my chat, and then I went into the kink, went a little wide, and then just kind of had a little brain fart and did like a slow half spin.
Oh no, that's got to be the wow. I mean, of all the answers I was expecting, that was not it. But I mean, you'll have to plug your Twitch channel momentarily. But yeah, just as we go forward, I mean, just a very solid, very quick performance today. I know you were definitely battling for the lead at several points throughout our Indy 300 last week. As we move forward to Charlotte Roval and the Skip Barber on Saturday at 8 p.m., what are you expecting for our next race? Like, do you feel confident in either the Skip Barber or at the Roval, or just how you feeling going into our third round?
To be honest, I know I'm back in the points, so I know I need some good results, and I'm going to be practicing pretty hard. I myself don't have a ton of experience in the Skip Barber car or the Charlotte Roval, but it'll be something I'm definitely going to work on before the next round to try to get me back in the championship hunt.
Awesome. Well, speaking of the championship, I think you're probably, if I had to approximate, going to be like fourth or fifth in points after today, which coming up from eighth is very solid. And you've run quick at both races we've done so far. So, I think your Twitch fans might have something to be proud of next week if you're able to keep up this pace. But yeah, just quickly before we head off to our race winner interview, do you want to give any quick shout outs or maybe plug your Twitch channel for the viewers at home?
So I just started Twitch streaming, and it's twitch.tv/Matt Clark. That's my Twitch channel. And then, obviously, I'm not sure if my family's watching, but I'd like to thank them for letting me borrow the attic, for 2 hours to come sim race, and all of my real life sponsors, FAF Motorsports, Second Skin, MIR, Raceline USA, Bell Helmets, and everyone who makes this possible.
I mean, yeah, I completely forgot of anybody in the field. You're probably the guy with the most, the most off track, or should I say, the most out of iRacing sponsors and the most following in the background. So, man, I mean, if you're as quick in real life as I've seen you are on iRacing, well, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with for those sponsors in the future. So, congrats, Mac. I
Thank
mean,
you.
oh, no problem. Congrats, Mac. Congrats on your second place today. And I have the feeling this won't be the last time I talk to you in the next few races. So, have a good rest of your night.
Thank you, Marshall. Thank you very much.
No problem. See ya. Okay, so let me just set up our final interview here with our race winner, Logan Pax. As I believe I'm speaking to him in the chat right now. Is this Logan? Okay, well, first of all, Logan, congratulations on your win today. Which if last race has gone a little bit differently, would have been the second one in a row. But man, it looked like after you made that pass on Mac on the very first lap of the race, it looked like there was no looking back for you. Just what was it you think that you noticed between your line and some others, and just what was it that was able to get you the win today by such a dominant margin?
Yeah, well, obviously the start was great. I think Mac had a lot of wheel spin. But after that, it was really just trying to be consistent, not making mistakes that I think allowed me to stay ahead of the people. So yeah, overall, it was a really good race. A couple of things I could have done better, but pit strategy was fairly simple. I think it was a one stop with just put as much fuel in as possible and just go to the end. But yeah, I think consistency was definitely the key to this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And of anybody in the field, you seem to have the best balance of that. And the one thing I do want to mention is it was kind of a talking point all race, but about the changing track conditions. I mean, you look at the way iRacing models like real life dirt on the track, and when guys would come off and come back on, the sand from their tires would sweep onto the track. Did you notice the track conditions changing from the start of the race to your final lap there?
Yeah, of course. At the start of the race, it was normal. Like all the testing sessions we've done before in the practice, it felt exactly like that. But as like people started to fight and they started to go off track a little bit. Obviously, like iRacing being extremely realistic, sand did start to crop up on the track, and it seemed like there were some patches where it was, normal. There wasn't very much sand on the track, and there were other times when the sand affected your pace a lot. So yeah, definitely that was a big part of just kind of adjusting to that and not letting it catch you off guard.
Well, clearly you adjusted to it well, as again you won today by a pretty solid margin. Now, the one thing I was noticing all race is you seem to have quite the following in our YouTube chat, and I think upwards of maybe 8 to 10 viewers that were all sending good messages for you. But I asked at one point in kind of a slow section of the race if anybody had any questions for you, and we did have a question from I believe Keith Forcier, probably butchered that, but he just wanted to know, compared to last week, what were any changes to your pit strategy, or after the unfortunate incident earlier, did you think much about your pit stints going into today's race?
Uh, Definitely, yeah. Last race did have quite an effect on me, just thinking about that. But yeah, definitely.
Well, as you mentioned with the one stopper today, I mean you timed it well. I know a few guys were forced to do two stoppers when they pitted a little early for new tires, but well, as we close the chapter on today's race and we look forward to round three on Saturday at Charlotte Roval in the Skip Barber, how are you feeling for that? I know it'll be the first time in our Skip Barber all season, and Charlotte Roval, a little bit of an unconventional track compared to where we've been so far, that being Indianapolis and Laguna Seca, which is a dedicated road course. So, how are you feeling as we go forward to Charlotte Roval?
Personally, I'm actually really excited. That track, I love it. Just because of the way you have to drive it, and also the car. It feels a lot like a go-kart in many different ways. Um, Obviously, the half oval part of it is also really cool, and I believe there's a section at the end that you take almost flat out. It's yeah, I'm extremely excited for that race.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I can't wait to see if we can maybe get a little bit more of a competitive race going today. But it sounds like some other guys are feeling pretty excited and feeling pretty confident. So you should have some good competition and some good battle in there. But just as we head off the air quickly, do you want to maybe give a shout out to anybody, or is there anybody you want to thank for watching you today?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to thank my dad because I was actually really worried about fuel. I didn't think I was gonna be able to get to the end. So he did some calculations for me, and that really helped me out. So yeah, lots of thanks to him.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'll just give a quick shout out to all the people in the chat because like of everybody I saw, pretty much everything was go Logan or some form of maybe inside joke that I don't understand. But like there was definitely some solid fan support for you. So you'll have to give some thanks to people in the YouTube chat after the race. But congrats, Logan. Like very solid race today, very solid race before, and you are by a pretty decent margin, I'd guess. You are our championship points leader. So congrats, Logan, and look forward to seeing you Saturday.
Yeah, thanks, Marshall.
No problem. Okay, well, as I just said in our interview, as we close the book on today's race, let me just throw up our final points results again. I don't currently have the graphic for the point standings up, but as we head out and I make some approximations, if I had to guess, I believe Logan Paxel will be your championship points leader by about maybe 12 to 15 points. He's got quite a sizable gap on the drivers behind him. Then after that, Josh Gallagher will have moved down from his second place position after winning our first race of the season, which means I believe Sam McEachern will move up to second. So 2/3 in the first two races, but that doesn't mean he'll be third in our point standings. As well, McEachern's consistency will reward him with a second place in the championship. And then after that, well, I think it would be either Josh Gallagher or perhaps Todd Ricard, maybe. Let me check. Actually, Michael Krobach could make a case for having that position as well, but yeah, it's going to be a close points battle, and I'll be sure to have the graphic up for our race on Saturday. But speaking of our Saturday race, as we move forward, as I mentioned in the interviews, to Charlotte Roval in the Skip Barber Racing Series car. Yeah, as Logan mentioned in his interview there, it's very similar to a go-kart. So some of these guys may, at least in terms of handling and in car condition, they may be pretty familiar with it, considering these are all guys coming from a karting background. So it's a race I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to see if we can get some close battling and well, maybe a little bit more of an interesting lap by lap analysis from me if I have the race that allows for it. So, well, as I did last week, I just want to thank everybody watching at home for all those maybe those Logan fans out there for commenting and give me something to talk about. But yeah, really just anybody who watched today's race, maybe if it's for a friend or a loved one in the race or whatever the case may be. I'm just really glad to have people engaged by this series. And well, I wish we could have had a little bit more entertaining of a race for it today. But I promise as we go forward to Charlotte Roval on Saturday at 8 p.m. on this same channel, you'll see the link up hopefully by tomorrow, depending on when I get it up. But yeah, I mean, thank you everybody for watching. And again, if you have any questions next time around in the chat you want to throw in there for me, well, I'm always going to be reading it because sometimes when I take quick breaks, I need something to do. So, well, first of all, thank all the fans today. I want to thank any drivers watching that may have had a crash out earlier in the race or who after running today's race just felt like they wanted to check in. Congrats to everybody today because I feel like everybody ran about as consistently and as sportsmanlike and as friendly as you can. And really, from a bunch of karting guys, what more would you expect? Because karting guys tend to have a very, very personal social relationship with each other compared to some major racing series. So it's good to see everybody kind of getting along, and hopefully this whole kumbaya mentality continues forward. But yeah, so thank you again, everybody, for watching. Thanks to all the drivers. Yeah, as you see our final results there, and Logan Paxel, we just interviewed him. What the heck did I just say? Interviewed him. But yeah, he's such a humble guy, and he's very deserved for a race winner, and clearly all of our fans know that as well. But yeah, as we head off the air today for round 2 of the Karts to Computers iRacing series, thank you again, everybody, for watching, and well, we look forward to seeing you for our broadcast on Saturday. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your night.